Chapter 3. Wonders in the Making and Secret Struggles. Over the next few days, Mina and Chloe met up during lunch breaks and after school, often at Mina's house. Sarah would sometimes bring them a plate of cookies or sliced apples, smiling at their focused faces. Mina brought her detailed research, showing Chloe how she was trying to represent the magnificent scale of the wonders. Chloe, in turn, showed a surprising talent for visual design, suggesting creative ways to build the model that Mina hadn't even considered. Their first big task was to choose which of the 7 wonders to focus on. I'm leaning towards the Great Pyramid, Mina suggested, because it's such an enigma. How did they build it without modern tools? And it was built to last forever, showing a strong desire for leaders to be remembered, and it is the only one still standing. Chloe nodded. That's cool. But what about the Lighthouse of Alexandria? Imagine a light so bright it could guide ships from miles away. It was about helping people, right? Not just for one king's glory or looking cool. Or the hanging gardens Mina offered, if they even existed. They're such a mystery. Was it a harsh leader showing off power or a beautiful gift? I wonder. They discussed how each wonder, whether a tomb for a powerful leader or a beautiful statue, was ultimately built for people to wonder at and to create something grand. They realized that most of them were about being remembered, celebrating a person, or showing off power. In the end, after much discussion, they settled on the Mausoleum at Halicarnassus. It was a giant tomb, right? Chloe mused. Built to remember one person forever. It feels grand and a bit sad at the same time. Mina agreed, finding a strange beauty in its purpose. Mina thought about the dress again. Chloe still hadn't worn it since that first day of school. I'll tell her then, Mina decided. When she wears it again, she'll be surprised I even remembered. She knew she wanted to impress Chloe with her attention to detail, but also just genuinely wanted to share the compliment. The chaotic Colossus, Tiffany and Kyle's disaster. Meanwhile, Tiffany Miller and Kyle Johnson were having a very different experience with their project. They were supposed to be working together, but they were incredibly undecided. I think we should do the Colossus of Rhodes, Tiffany declared one afternoon at Kyle's house, looking at her phone rather than her history book. It sounds cool, a giant statue on a port. Yeah, but the Lighthouse of Alexandria was way more useful, and it was at a port too, Kyle argued, drawing a neat picture in his notebook. Giant light for ships, way better. They argued for days, unable to agree. Finally, they decided to start building the Colossus. It was a grand idea, but a very sensitive one to get right. Their first attempt, a tall, shaky figure made of cardboard and tape, soon fell apart in the disaster of bent limbs and crumpled paper. They were back to square one. See? Tiffany huffed, pointing at the mess. This is why we should have done the hanging gardens. No way. The lighthouse is still the best, Kyle shot back. With their first model, a failure, and no agreement on their next, they resorted to a silly contest, a paper airplane throwing competition to decide who got to pick the next wonder. They spent an entire afternoon perfecting their planes and arguing over the rules, using up valuable project time. By the time the contest was over and Tiffany had declared herself the winner, they only had a few days left before the project was due. They started to feel like their own project was a disaster. A sense of panic set in. They saw Mina and Chloe's project taking shape, looking magnificent. Tiffany and Kyle started to feel bad about their own lack of progress. A dangerous thought began to form in Tiffany's mind. If their project was going to be a mess, maybe they could subtly sabotage another group's work just a little, so they wouldn't feel quite so terrible by comparison. It was a shallow thought, born out of frustration and fear of failure. But it was there, evolving in Tiffany's mind like a dark cloud.